Right, welcome back to Android. And now we're going to go over the rules overview. It's going to be an overview. I'm going to try to, speed it up compared to last video, but it's not easy. I mean, there is a lot of thing going on. But let's keep going. So there's a few tokens I added. I forgot about those tokens for the map. I'll go over that. No big deal. And also, you pick your cards in the beginning of the game. That was part of the setup that I didn't do, but every player draws two of his light card and a dark card from the player on his left, and then if you have special cards like Floyd has a special directive that tells him that he can no, not a Floyd, but Rachel, she has a special ability that lets her pick two extra cards either from the light deck or the dark deck or a mix. Then you do that. That's why she has a little bit more cards than everybody else. And once you're ready to go, you go. You have actions, so the day is going to start. When you start the game, you put the counter on the first day of the week, of the first week, and every time a day passes, you go down until you get to the end of the game, which is right here, second week at the end. During the day, this is the day phase, meaning the day begins. If there's any event that happens at the beginning of the day or any special abilities, that's when they would happen. If not, then you go. Every player gets 6 times. So here's the card you're going to get. Every player is going to get that card, that time sheet in front of him when it's his turn. They're going to put the little marker on the 6. Now, if you're Floyd, because you have a special directive, in play at the beginning of the day, it tells you get an extra time to use each day. As long as this card is in play, you get 7, but everybody else will get 6. And then what can you do with your time? Well, this time sheet, which is pretty good, tells you pretty much the things you can do. You can move to new location, follow up leads, draw or discard any cards, or from the Twilight deck. Play a light card, get a jump on the case, and use a location ability, and so forth. So, first thing you can do, and first thing you might do, is move. Well, how do you move? Well, let's go over that. Alright, to make it easier, I put Floyd here, where it's supposed to start over there, but just to show you the movement. So, if you're in a location like here, to move, the first thing you need to know is get your car ruler, right? And then what you do, you always start from the colored shape. On every location there's a colored shape. Sometimes on the top left, top right, bottom, whatever, or in the middle, depending on the location. You start your ruler on that space here, that little shape, colored shape, and anything that falls within your ruler. So if you can make a big circle, if you will. Imagine there's a big circle around it. Anything that falls within that arc, you can travel to. Right, no problem. So, if I'm here and I want to go to Jack's dinner, well, I just go here. Can I go? Definitely, no problem. It's within the ruler. But if I want to go to the Pat Osher's pub, well, I could actually, see. It's exactly, and in the game, the map is made in a sense that you would always either be exactly on, pretty much within, or too far. It's usually not like, like this kind of, oh my god, I can almost make it, can I make it, can I not? Normally, from what I've seen, the distance are pretty good. You're going to be exactly on top, or within, or too far. So you can't go to Olive and Robotics from here, from where he is right now. But you can go to the A+ Athletic Club and so forth. So that's the way you move. Once you find out where you can go, then you get there. And that, you spend one time. So you are at 7, take your little marker, move it to 6, you have 6 time left, right? Now when you move, you want to stay where you are for a little bit, because some characters, the other players, have the chance to play a card, one of your dark cards. So for example, just to give you an example, Rachel has this dark card from Floyd, which says right here, play after Floyd enters a location. Floyd must discard 2 light cards. So once Floyd enters a location, she can play that card, discard the card obviously, and then Floyd will have to do whatever the card says. Okay, so you give a chance to the other players to play a card here. So, but it's also up to the other player to know what they have also. You don't have to stay here forever. When you go into a location, you have to, what they call, enter the location. You can just over it and not do anything. You have to enter the location. Just means that you can, if you choose to, use the ability of the location. Locations that are the small location like that, basic locations, have usually 3 different symbols. Okay, shape, triangle, circle, and diamond. The triangle, it's a Seedy location, S-E-E-D-Y, Seedy, which means it's a rundown location, not a great location to be in. But once you get into the location, if you choose to, you can get one of the dark card for the other player, just one. That's the way you draw cards. This is to draw a dark card from another player. If you get to a location with a diamond, it's a Ritzy location, like a snobby location, snobbish. You can draw a light card from your deck, right? That's how you pick cards. Okay, so you can choose if you want to. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. It doesn't cost the time to pick it. It costs the time to get here, but it doesn't cost the time to pick it, to draw a card, right? Then when you're there, let's say you wanted to go right here. Can you make it? Same thing again. You look, and you can definitely make it. So then you get here, and again, one more time is used. So now you got 5. And same thing, if you want to pick a light card, you can if you choose to. And when you're there, you can also use the ability of the location. This ability simply says, if you spend 2 more times, or if you spend 2 times, you can get a favor, okay, from that group. Again, you don't have to, but if you choose to, you can do that. Right. So that's pretty much movement. Another thing about movement also, if you get into a location, I talked about that earlier, if you get a location that has this symbol here, that means it's a restricted location. And in a restricted location, it costs you 2 extra time just to get in. So if you were going into that location, it will cost you a time to get here, but if you don't have a warrant, it will cost you 2 extra time, so 3 times just to get here, right? To get a warrant, you will go first to this place right here, use the ability, okay? Use 1 time plus discarding 1 favor from the political group, then you get a warrant. And everybody starts with 2 warrants. Floyd has already 1 over there, plus 1 here, every player has 2. You will just, once you do this, you will just get your warrant and put it next to the location. So you know at this location you have a warrant to get in, only that player, or whoever's player has a warrant. And it will just call you regular 1 time to get in, okay? You only have 2 warrants in the entire game. So if you had 2 warrants already here and you wanted to get to this location and use a warrant, you would have to go back here, spend that ability, and either take this warrant or the one over there and move them here. So you move the warrants once you already have 2 in the board. You can only have 2 in the board during the entire game. Alright, and one more thing for the movement, it's going to be the Beanstalk. The Beanstalk is a little bit different. The Beanstalk works this way. If you want to get anywhere in the Beanstalk, you cannot go with your card directly. So if you were here, in this location right here, you couldn't just say, okay, I can get there, so let me just go straight to the Castle Club. No, you couldn't do that. You have to start at the root. You have to get to the root first, and then you spend 1 time for each location within the Beanstalk. So once you get here, 1 time to get here, 1 time to get here, 1 time, 1 time. Once you're there, on the moon, the starboard Kaguya, then you can use your ruler to go anywhere else, and vice versa. From the moon, you go here, then you spend the time. So it's going to cost you 1, 2, 3, 4 times minimum just to get through the Beanstalk, which represents you going through that big, huge elevator into the moon. It takes time, obviously, so that's what this represents. The other thing you can do with your action or your time, we're going to call them time and sometimes actions, just, it's follow up a lead. What does that mean? Well, that's one of the things you do in this game. You're trying to, find evidence that one of those guys, whoever it is in your game, in this case Floyd, if it was him, she's the guilty party. So he needs to put some evidence on her. And the way he does that is follow up leads. When you follow up leads, you get into a location that has a lead. So for example, in here, if you've seen the setup video, you will know what the leads are, and I'm trying to look for them. Oh yeah, it is. There's a lead here, Ski Apartments. There's another one in the East Terminal, East Star Skyway Terminal, but there's also a lead in Levy University. This is a testimony lead, remember? So he could go, well, he's not too far from the testimony lead. He could go there in probably 2 time. So let's say he gets there and he's used 2 times, whatever. I'm just going to go through, we've done movement already. Let's say he gets there and he says, okay, you can either do this, right, but he can also follow up a lead. So once he's in anywhere, any location with a lead, remember there's 3 kind of leads: document leads, physical leads, testimony leads. So once he's there, he's going to say, okay, I'm going to spend 1 time, once I get there, to follow up that lead. And this is the way it works. You pick from the evidence pool randomly one of those little markers here, so I'll do it right now. And then you and only you are going to look at it. You don't want the other players to know. And it's a 1, right? So it's a positive evidence. So now you want to put it on one of those suspects. You happen to have her as the guilty party, right? So you want to put any evidence that is positive, 1, 2, 3, or 4, within her. If you had a negative, you probably want to put it in your innocent, which happens to be the same, and I'll go through that, why that is. But let's say it was, I don't want to feel like doing this right now, so I'll just do that. Let's say it was him. So if it was a negative, you would want to put him on him. And how do you put it? Where do you put it? Let's take a look at the card closely, and we'll talk about it. So if we look at those 2 cards here, we have our guilty and our innocent. We can just put them in order. All right? Well, there is 3 different spaces where you can put evidence. And if you look at it, there is an icon on those spaces that represent the lead. Okay? This is the document lead. This represents the testimony lead and your physical lead. And it also say that in our case, the document leads are pretty strong. The testimony leads are normal, and the physical lead are weak. Okay, it just means that some of the characters, some of the suspects, are more prone to get suspected on different kind of lead. Now, for example, I believe he's an hacker, so obviously anything that's document related, electronics, it's going to be weak for him because he can hack his way into this. Whereas testimony, well, he's not really a people person, so he won't be able to, try to bribe people to not tell the detective anything about him. So it's a strong evidence if you talk to people and witnesses for him because he's not the people person. Whereas a guy like him is the opposite. I mean, he's not a smart guy, so documents, anything electronic is going to be strong against him because he's not that good. Well, as testimony, you can imagine nobody wants to testify against him because they will probably die somewhere, somehow. So the way you do it is you take your lead, your evidence, right? Since it's a positive, you're going to put it on her, and you have to put it on the square where you got that lead from. That lead was a testimony lead, so you put it on this testimony square right here. But you don't put it like that, you put it face down, so nobody knows if you put a positive or negative, so they don't know if this is your guilty party or your innocent. They won't know, the other players won't know that. So once you do that, she already has 1, okay? At the end of the game, you're gonna have a lot of those things all over the place, right? Like this, like that, right? Something like that, right? Then all the suspects, and at the end of the game, you're just going to turn them off, and you're going to count, pretty much on all of the different leads what is shared. So 3 plus minus 2 is 1, minus 2, minus 1. Okay, obviously she's going to be innocent because there's a lot of minus right there. But whoever has the most evidence on them is the guilty party. That's pretty much the way, you know, that's going to happen. So that's the way you put evidence on a suspect. Before I go to the next part, which is draw or discard a card, that's easy anyway. Just want to say one thing about the movement. There is one thing you can do also. If you get one of those drop ship right here, which you can get at the NEPD, okay, you can call up. So once you get it with you, okay, anytime you want, you can call a drop ship. It picks you up, your car, and it can drop you anywhere on the board, anywhere on the Earth, anywhere on the Moon, or even in the Beanstalk. So you just discard it and move your character anywhere you want. And it only costs you one time to do that. So that's a faster way to go somewhere. But obviously, you'll have to have that, right? Okay, so that's my 2 cents with it. Now let's get to the next place. Following up a lead is not just about the suspects, right? It's also about that thing right there, the conspiracy puzzle. So when you follow up a lead, you can either get an evidence and place an evidence, or you can discover a piece of the conspiracy. What is this all about? So here we are, the famous conspiracy puzzle. What that means is, instead of following up a lead by placing an evidence like we did, you can also decide, oh, you know what, I want to uncover a piece of the conspiracy, right? So you look at where your character is right now. Floyd is right here on this pile. So you can, for one time, obviously, is pick one of these puzzle, because you are here. You can pick those because this is where your character is. So you pick one of this puzzle, and this one, those puzzle pieces have something in the back. First of all, this means shifting. You can shift light. You can shift to the dark or to the light of your spectrum in your character, and I'll explain that later. This is what it means. You can shift one to the light or to the dark, right? Before you even go anywhere, do that. Here, this one means you can take one of the favors, politicals, corporation favor, or whatever it is. And this one means that you can get a baggage, okay? A good baggage on your plot cards, I believe. Which is pretty powerful, actually. Once you do this, once you've done your 3 shifting, if you want to, I don't think you have to, I think you can, but you don't have to. You turn the puzzle over, and then you place it wherever you want on the map. Now, what you want to do is get from the center, what that guy is looking at you, and you want to link different places. So, for example, here, the human first, yeah, that's what it's called, human first, okay. What it does is, if you're able to link anywhere, boom, and get there, that means the conspiracy link is done. This gonna happen, and it says each street favor is +1 VP per link. Okay, so at the end of the game, for every link that you get, you're gonna get an extra favor for each street favor. And here is a bit different. This is innocent hunches are +2 per VP per link, right? And so forth. So they all have different things that they do. They boost pretty much your VP at the end of the game, and that can be a difference between winning and losing. So you will simply put your puzzle like this, right? And then another, you know, someone else picks another one. So for example, some of them have a little icon on them. This is a lead. It's a physical lead. That means at this point you can actually move a lead. And I'm going to talk about moving the lead, because I didn't talk about that when we did the lead. I'll talk about that right after this, but that's what it means. And different icons going to show up. I'm not going to go into it. You can look in the rules. They explain it pretty easy. But you know, now you put this somewhere else, whatever here, and you pick another one. Well, this one can go like this, okay? And now what you did is you made a link to James Levy, which means each society favor is a +1 VP per link, right? Alright, so this is the way you uncover a piece of the conspiracy puzzle. You can also, instead of picking that piece, spending the same time, instead of picking that piece, you can take your marker and move it to the next one, right? And that's it, you can just move it. And on your next turn, if you follow up a lead and you decide to uncover a piece of the conspiracy, you can pick this one. This one's a little bit better because not only it gives you a favor, but usually those little icons, like if you get a dropship, which is pretty good, they are usually better icons right there, okay? You can also do, on your turn, instead of picking this one, you got it, you can move one more. And then, on your next turn, once you follow up a lead, you can pick that one, get a good baggage, and then again, this one has also icons and everything. So you have to decide pretty much what you want to do. But once you do pick up either this one or this one, your character goes to the least, the pile with the least, the further away from at the beginning. Okay. So if this pile is gone, which might happen, then everybody will move here, right? So even if you're here, you move back here because there's no more pile here. So as long as there's a pile there, you always move to the least, right? And everybody starts with the least. So remember, pick that or move. Then once you move, you can pick, you just move. Now next turn you can pick, or move again and then wait another turn. So you can tell that to get this one, it's going to take you some following up some few leads. All right, so that was the conspiracy. And only one more thing about the conspiracy, depending on the kind of puzzle piece you put, if there is a bunch of puzzle like this and you're the last one to put a straight line like this, a straight line like this, or a straight line like this, you get one of those 4VP here. I'm not going into that. That's not to me, it's kind of a weird thing, but it's there. You'll find it in the rules. It doesn't really have to do with the game, so it doesn't really matter right now. All right, so that's following up the leads. Okay, this is probably one of the big thing you're going to do during your game is following up leads, so you can get your thing going. And the next thing you can do is draw or discard a card. Well, obviously, you can draw a card for one time. Remember, when you get to a Ritzy location or a Seedy location, you get to draw a light card or a dark card, respectively, for free. But you can also spend the time, okay, to draw a card, right? And you can also discard a card. That's the way you're going to discard. So if you don't like your cards, you can only discard one card for each time you spend. You can also play a card. So if I'm Floyd and I want to play one of my light cards, obviously you're not going to play the dark. Remember, the dark plays out of turn, so it's not going to happen. But you can spend the time to play one of those cards. So it's time for us to talk about shifting the light and the dark. The power of the dark side. All right, you always start in the middle here. Sorry about your face. You start here. When you want to play a card, this is not a great example because this one is expensive. But if you add I don't know, like this one is a 2 here. All right. Anyway, whatever the number is, this is how much you're going to spend on your, your what is it called? The shift, the light and the dark shift. It's called the Twilight cost. You're going to pay 5 in the Twilight cost, but you're going to pay. In this case, you're paying 5. You have to dark shift. You see I don't know if you can see it hopefully. There's a arrow that goes this way. It's easy to understand. When you play a light card, you pay a dark shift. You have to dark shift for every light card, and you have to light shift for every dark card. I know it's confusing, but trust me, you play once, you get it. Plus it tells you here pretty much the arrow goes this way, right? So you will have to pay 5. That means right now I can't, right? Because I can only pay 1, 2. And I'm shifting as maximum as I can. I'm completely dark shifted right here. So I spent 2, I need 3 more. How can I do that? Well, you can discard cards. I can discard any number of cards to lower the amount that it costs. So for example, in this case, if I discarded 3 cards, I only have 2, but if I could discard 3 cards, it would cost me 2 instead of 5, right? 5 minus 3, 2. So I could do it. I could move there and do it. So I could actually play that card by spending 1 time, of course, and paying the cost of shifting. Then I'll do what the card says. If it says 0 on the card, then that's what it costs, nothing. Also, why would you want to shift, and why is it that you're shifting? Well, because later on, if you want to play a dark card, you need to light shift. See, the arrow goes this way, and this costs you 2. So in this case, you will go once you can. If you want to play that card, even though you're not going to use the time because it's not going to be on your turn, it's going to be on somebody else's turn. In this case, it's going to be Louis' turn. Once you play the card, you still have to pay this. So you have to have it. So in this case, you will move 2 here, and you're back here. You might want to play cards, dark cards that are more, like let's say you have a dark card that has a 6 on it or 5, you could go 1, 2, 3, 4 and discard a card. Alright, so you're going to move between this and this. You want to play, you don't want to play any dark card on anybody, you're a good guy. Well, that's going to force you to do it, because if you don't, you're going to be at the dark side of your character and you'll never be able to play another light card. So you're going to have to play some dark cards so you can go back to the light side and then use it again. Right? That's the mechanics here. Like it or not, that's the way it works. Another thing you can do on your turn is get a jump on the case. This simply means that right now, Floyd is the first player. He has the first player marker right here. So he's the first player. He's going to go first every day, right? If you, for a reason, you want to go first, and sometimes it is good to go first, sometimes it's not. But what you would do, you can get to the location of the crime, which happens to be here, in this case. You move to that location with your character, and then you place one of your markers. So in this case, it won't be him, because he's already there. But let's say she wants to go first. She will move there and place a marker right here. At the end of the day, and we're going to go quick after that, at the end of the day, when we finish with all the actions you can do in your turn. At the end of the day, whoever his character's hero marker is on the crime scene location will get the first player marker. And she'll become the first player on the next day. Okay, so that's the way you do it. That's what it costs to get a jump on the case, right? And finally, you can use also a location's ability. We've talked about that, but if you're on a location with an ability like this one, you can use a time to, well, you don't use a time. Remember, it says here, it varies. Why? Because in this location, you use 2 times, and then you get a favor, right? This one too. Actually, this one, no, you spend 2 times plus a favor or any favor, and then you can remove one of a trauma. Remember, there's trauma in the game that gives you a minus VP, so they're bad, okay, so, and so forth. And if different locations have different ability. This one, if you spend 2 times, I believe that means any one favor, or it might be one of each, I'm not sure, I'll have to check that, but anyway, you'll see in the rulebook. And you discard 2 cards, you can put a hit on someone. So when you put a hit on someone, you just get one of those hit marker, and you put it on one of the suspects. When the suspect has 3 of those, that suspect is dead. And if the suspect is dead, if it's your suspect, if it's your guilty party, you'll never be able to score because it's dead. So you will just turn the card over, remove all the stuff, and same thing with all of the suspects, okay? So that's the way you put a hit on someone. There is a errata that talks about, for jumping the case, that you can, once you get here, pick another player to put his hero marker, and he will start the game. So because we said sometimes it's not good to start, it could be something bad for you. Well, if you want, let's say you're Rachel, but you want Louis to start the game, you could put his marker here once you're there, and then you will have to start the game on the next turn. That's something that they added. Yeah, why not? All right, so there's a few things I want to talk about really quickly. We talked about following up a lead when you get to a location with a lead marker, like this one here or this one there, and then you put one of those evidence token into one of those guys over there. Well, you have to also move the lead, all right? So let's talk about that quickly. All right, so when you move a lead, what it means simply is that if you were Floyd and you follow up that lead, you will take that lead marker, give it to the player on your right, in this case or counterclockwise, so in this case it's her. Rachel, the player that plays Rachel, would then move the lead somewhere else. Pretty much, you follow up that lead, there's some trails that leads to another evidence somewhere else. And here's the way you move it. There is restriction on the movement of where it goes. You can, first you have to move it. You can't just leave it there. You can say, okay, I'm going to move it to the same place. No, you got to move it somewhere else. The second restriction is that it has to move in the same type of location. In this case, it's red, right? So you have to move it to another red location. You couldn't move it to a purple or green, right? That's what it is. You cannot move it to a location that already has. So you cannot move it here because it's already has a lead. Okay? So you have to move it where there is no lead. And the last restriction is if you're Rachel and you happen to be there, you cannot move that lead anywhere in your district. So a district is, I don't know if you can see, there's a color, you see that red color here? And then there's a blue color here, then a yellow. Well, it's green, Ben. I don't know if you can see, but it's green. Okay. And then there's yellow over there. And finally, it's a grayish around here. So that square is a district. That square is a district. That's a district. That's a district. That's a district. The Beanstalk itself is a district. Okay. It counts as its own little district here. So once you move the lead, then you're going to move it to a location and then nowhere where you are. So you can put it anywhere here, and there's a red right here, so you could put it here, you could put it here, you couldn't put it here because it was there, but you could put it here. On the Beanstalk there's no red, so you can't put it here because there's a lead, you can put it here, you can put it here, or here. Actually no, there's a lead there. So, alright, so if there is no lead, if it's the same color and it's not in your district, then you can move it, and you must move it. So she will move it, I'll move it closer to me, but then you're closer to them, so maybe I'll move it here. Whatever, doesn't matter. But that's the way you move a lead. I think you get an idea of what you can do during your time. Going to places, following up leads, doing two things when you follow the lead. Either put an evidence on one of the suspects, either to prove his guilt or his innocence, uncover a piece of the conspiracy by using the puzzle pieces there. You can draw a card, discard cards. Obviously, you can also play the cards, light cards, that's the way you do. Get a jump on the case if you want to be the first player or you want another player to be the first player. Or use a location's ability. There's other few things. Like I said, I'm not going to go into everything, but there is some location that lets you get one of those alibi tokens. Whoops. And this can be put on one of the suspects. This counts as a -5. Okay, so it's something you want to do to prove the innocence of one of the things. Remember, when you do that, it's going to, kind of tell the other players who's your suspect that's innocent for you. Okay, because obviously you won't put a -5 on somebody that's not innocent for you. Also, the heat, remember we talked about the heat marker, that's the way of getting, is to go to that location there. It's also, a lot of them are into the puzzle piece, so that's why you may want to do that too, use the puzzle, because it lets you put a heat on one of the suspects. Remember, if you put 3 heats on one suspect, that suspect is dead. So if let's say that's somebody that's a player's guilty party and he's dead, that player will never get those 15 VP. So that's something you can do too. Alright, so we want to talk about something else now. We're going to move on to the plots, because this is one of probably the best part of the game. It's where all the story happens. Remember, you're going around the city, okay, or the moon, and you're trying to find leads to, put evidence on a guilty suspect or an innocent. But while you do that, during your life, things happen in your life. And things can really quickly degenerate if you're not careful with your plots. And when they do, you lose some VP at the end of the game. And again, that can also mean losing the game. Okay? But it also can get you VPs. Okay? So let's talk quickly about plots. Alright, so let's talk about the plots. Remember, during the setup, we talked about how you set up the plots. You choose one of those cards. Anyway, I'm not going to go through that. But you have a plot during the game. And you have the first card of the plot always in play. And the way it works, the plots, you have a little story you can read, but there is two parts of the plot card right here. In this case, Louise has duty and guilt. That first part here says that Louis gains 1 good baggage each time he follows up a lead and sacrifices the evidence from it. So remember we talked about following up lead, you can get one of the evidence randomly and put in one of the suspects. Well, you pick up one evidence randomly and instead of putting on a suspect, you just discard it. Once he does that, Louis, he gets a good baggage. So he will simply take one of those baggage counter, put it on the orange side, which shows the good side, and put it on his card. Now he has 1 good baggage and 0 bad baggage. But also it says that Louis gains 1 bad baggage each time any other player sacrifices 2 times. So if I'm Rachel and I want him to get a bad baggage, during my turn I will sacrifice 2 times. That means I won't use them to do anything, just sacrifice them. And I will have to, Louis will have to take one of those baggage, put it on the bad side and put it there. And during the game, things are going to accumulate, right? If Louis, so that's cards, Louis cards. In the 3rd day, at the end of the 3rd day, we're going to go through plot resolution, right? At least for the first part of the plot. So every player, starting with the first player and going clockwise, is going to look at how many good baggage they have and how many bad baggage they have. If they have more baggage, good baggage than bad, the good part of the plot is going to happen. In this case, it says you're going to continue by on the next card. It's called a finally caught a break. So you will look at the cards. Remember, there's a color here, blue. You get all the blue cards with it. You get the blue one that says on top, I finally caught a break. That's going to be the new card in play. So you remove those baggage. This card is discarded. This one is the new card, so you can just put it on top, or whatever, or just discard this card and keep this one active now. And this is your new plot, starting at the end of day 3 all the way to the last day of the week, which is day 7, right? 6 actually. Yeah, because in the future there's 6 days per week. So at the end of the 6th day, you're gonna just do the same thing. So during the time that you have this card on, from the end of day 3 to the end of day 6, this is going to apply now. So Louis will gain 1 good baggage each time he plays a piece of the evidence on the suspect. So that's kind of the opposite. Instead of wasting the evidence, now if he plays the evidence, again, he gets a good baggage. So the same thing is going to happen. You're going to take one of those things and put them if they're good. If the bad thing happened, then he's going to put a bad baggage. He's going to do that until the end of the 6th day. And at the end of the 6th day, the same thing we did with the first part of the plot. He's going to look at if he has more good than bad. Now, if he has more bad than good on the first plot, he will go to the next. He will go to this card. The trail went cold, which happens to be in the back of the second plot card, always. And this is the one you're going to go. So what's happening to you now with the good and bad baggage is a little bit worse. For example, here, if you did good on your plot and you got a break, well, guess what? It's not too bad to get good baggage. You just have to place evidence on the suspect. You won't do that anyway. So that's good. Every time you do that, you're going to get a good baggage. Pretty cool. But if you didn't do well on your plot here and you got, the trail went cold, well, now it's a little bit harder. If you look at it now, it says Louis gains 2 good baggage each time he sacrifices a political and a society favor. Yes, you get 2 good baggage, but you have to sacrifice 2 favors. First you have to have them, then you have to sacrifice them. Not that easy. Plus favors are good. But the bad part is Louis gains 2 bad baggage each time an alibi is placed on a suspect. So you can easily get Louis 2 baggage if you get an alibi on a suspect by going to that place using the ability of one of the location. And then same thing. So now if you have Sam, if it's tie, it's always the dark path that wins. Okay, so the light path or the good baggage or the good part of the card is only going to go if you have more good baggage and bad. But if you have the same or more bad baggage, you go automatically. So if you had no baggage, if you didn't care If you just says, I'm not going to worry about the plot, I'm just going to go and do what I need to do, who cares about the plot, you're always going to go to the bad thing, because no markers, no baggage means it's a tie. It's 0-0. So that means bad. And you're going to go bad, bad, bad. So at the end of the 6th day, depending on which one you are, you're going to go to the final cards. Okay? Which is one of those 4. It's going to depend on the path you picked. You're going to have 4 choices. The best one, if you've done everything right on your plot, you'll get this card with 7 VP, which you'll get at the end of the game, right? That's the best one you can do. But also it gives you a special ability or a special thing. It says, all of Louis' plots enter play with 1 good baggage on them. Okay? And that stays until the end of the game. And some gives you -1, -5, if you're really bad, if you did everything wrong. I don't want, you to read too much, so I don't want, that's why I'm moving them a little bit. But anyway, I don't want to go through that. But at the end of the 6th day, your plot will be done. The first plot of the first week, or the plot of the first week will be done, and you'll have either one of those 4 sides up, and it will give you a VP at the end of the game, right? So that's the way the plot works with baggage, right? At the end of the 6th day, which is the first week, you'll have your last card in play. It is going to stay until the end of the game. And you're going to go and pick up a second plot for the second week. And the way you do it is you pick up the next 2 cards that was left from the setup. Okay? And you're going to shuffle them. And you're going to pick one. So let's say I pick this one. And I'm going to pick all the yellow plots. Right? There's yellow and green. So I'm going to have all those 3 cards. Put them under the plots like we did in the setup. Right? Like this. And that's going to be your new plot. And you do the same thing for the second week, the 3rd day of the second week. At the end, you will go and decide how many baggage you have, look at how many baggage you have, and it's going to tell you which other cards to pick. And at the end of the week, the 6th day of the second week, you will do the same thing with the last plot. So you will have 2 plot cards at the end of the game with a VP on it, either minus or negative or positive. That can really shift the balance, because you can get 7 VP if you did everything good. You get 7 VP for one plot, 7 for the other. That's 14. That's pretty damn good. Or you can get -5 if you didn't do nothing wrong. So if you have 2 -5, that's -10. That can really kill you. So that's the way you play plots. Obviously, hopefully it's understandable. But this is where the story comes. There is a nice story if you read them. It tells you, it makes sense why you have good baggage or bad baggage, and then you go to the next card, and then the story continues, and NPC comes into play sometimes. Sometimes you have to go places there's a story with him with his wife. He has to go and meet her in a bar, and he spend some time with her over there by spending a time in the game, and then you get some good baggage. That's pretty cool. I think that really makes flavor to the game, and it's important to do that and to read all of it, because it really is what makes the game as good as it is, really. Also, one thing, the colors on the plot cards are important, because remember we talked about when you play some of the light cards or dark cards, they have colors on them. So when you play one of those cards and you have to shift, this one you have to shift to the dark. Okay, you have to dark shift 2. If that happens to be the same color than your plot. So this is Rachel, but if this was Louis, he's playing a green card and his current plot is green, he can choose to either add 1 to the shift, so instead of paying 2, he can pay 3, or he can choose to -1. So instead of paying 2, he can pay 1, as long as it's the same color, right? What would you want to add? Well, remember we talked about when you're shifting, sometimes you're completely light shifted, and you want to go as much as you can here because you want to play a good card later on. So this only gives you 2, but because it's the same color, you're going to say, you know what? I want this to be a 3, so I can move instead of 2, I'll move 3, and I'll go as far as I can this side because I need to play a card where I need to light shift as much as I can. So, and if it was the opposite, if you were here and you wanted to play that card, well, it's 2, I only have 1, I don't want to discard any cards, so guess what? It's the same color. I'm going to -1 from this, that's 1. So I can do it now, I can play it. So it's important to know the color of your plot and which card you can play. Every time it's the same color, you get a minus or +1. Alright, so that's plots. Trust me, this is what makes the game, the story. And if you read all the story and you really read those cards, I really had fun last time I played reading the cards. I have a background story on him, and on her. Okay, it's pretty cool. So do that. Trust me, you won't regret it. One more thing I want to mention about plot cards. As you can see, there is traits on those cards. You see them by the name here. Loyalty, duty, those are traits. Fear, guilt. Some cards that other player plays on you, especially dark cards, but other cards too, might ask for the player, specific player, let's say the card might say Louis receives a 1 loyalty baggage. Or it might say guilt baggage. Well, the reason they say that is depending on the plot you have, if you have that trait name on the plot, in this case, if it says you get 1 loyalty baggage, you do have your loyalty trait, that means you're going to get a good baggage because it's in part of the good side of the plot. If it says you get a guilt baggage, well, you will get a bad baggage because the guilt is under the gray area, right? So that's called conditional baggage, I believe. Something like that? Conditional baggage, yeah. So Twilight cards have conditional baggage, and when it says get a duty baggage or a guilt baggage, I know it kind of sounds weird. Well, you look at your plot cards. If it's not there, let's say it says you get a happy baggage, and there's no happy traits here, then you don't get nothing. But if it is there, one of the two, then you get the baggage. All right. So now let's go and talk about the track here, the turn track. So once you finish with the day, meaning every player has taken their turn, they did their time, they spend their 6, 7 time, whatever they have, and every player went, and it was back to the first player, you move that track down on 1 day. And then now you do what it says. In this case, this symbol just means you're going to play an event card. You're going to draw and play an event card. This means you're going to resolve the plots, remember, with the baggage? That's what you're going to do. And then you have it here again. And those means another event coming up. This one means a special event, which is specific to the crime, evil at the estate in this case, okay? But what you do is when you get here, well, the first thing you want to do is pick the top card, read what it says. In this case it says move Lily Lockwell, which is a reporter to broadcast square. Each player then draws 2 dark cards of the player on his left. Then you put this one on your general event like that. Some event give some locations some temporary ability, or you can get there and the first player gets there, or any player gets there, depending on what the event says. Spend some time or favor, whatever it is, and then get something in return. Okay? That's why you leave them up visible so people can read them again so they know what's going on. On the 4th day, you have another event, you just take another one, read what it says, and then you put it on, you move the first event to the second, to the general event number 2 here, and then you put this one here. So now you have 2 events in play. And once you get the 3rd event, then this one is discarded, this one is moved down, and the next event is put there, and you do what it says on the card. Okay, that's the way you play event. They're going to go through the game. And if an event, so if there is an event that says, let's say this event says the first player who gets to, Gila Highlands and spends 2 times receives a favor, right? Since it says the first player, that means only one player is going to do that, the first one who gets there. When that event is done, or when that ability is done, you turn this over. That means nobody can do it again. And so only this one applies now, whatever it says. Okay, so that's why you leave them here and you turn them around when it's done, so people know that that location's ability is done. It's been used. So we also talk about favor before. Remember, those are favors that you can use during the game. Also, those little NPC give you some favors. The way you know what favor they give you, it's right there. You know, green favor, blue favor. And I can never remember for the life of me what the color exactly mean. I know yellow is political, but I don't sure of the rest. But it doesn't really matter. But they give you different NPC gives you different favors. You can only use one. You choose the one you want. But this doesn't mean this one gives you 3 favors. It means they give you one of those 3 favors. You decide which one you want to use. Then you discard it. And also NPCs in the game. Well, for example, I don't know. Let's pick this guy right here. He gives you favors, right? Let's say you have him. And you say, oh, great, I have this guy, he gives me favors, he owes me favors, I can use him. But if it happens that this guy, from some card's ability or whatever in the plot, it can happen that this guy is eliminated. Either he leaves town, or you never see him again, or he just dies. You turn him over. Skeletor is coming. That means the guy is dead. Okay? If he's dead, any favors you had from that guy, you discard them. Can't use them anymore, right? Obviously, a dead man tells no tales. So, all right. So that's the way it works with the favors. So I'm already getting around. I think it was long enough. So this is pretty much the way the game plays. You've seen it. You get some VPs at the end of the game. You're going to count. The book, all right, the rulebook gives you an example of how you determine the murderer, right? And I showed you a little bit how you count all this stuff. It tells you also that you're supposed to remove the weakest evidence from the strongest lead on each characters, and the strongest evidence from the weakest link, which makes sense. Well, we talked about that some evidence are more damaging for some suspects than others. Some people have decided not to do that, but you can do that at the end, and then finally you can count and see who's the suspect, who's the innocent, and then you count, your VP if you guessed right. You're going to get VPs from different locations. You count all this. I'm not going to go into this. It gives you enough example of how you score in the book, which is pretty clear. And then whoever has the most VP is the winner of the game. Hopefully that gives you an idea of how you play the game. Leave some comments if I'm sure I forget to say something that was important, or I maybe made a mistake on somewhere. Please leave a comment. I mean, like I said, it's kind of, this game has a lot of stuff going on, so it's not always easy. But I hope that gives you an idea of what Android is about, okay? It's about not just uncovering who's the suspect of the murder, or if there is a conspiracy going on, but it's all about your own specific story of your character, and how can you manage your personal life with your work, and make sure that at the end of the day, you've done all that you can to, get the best outcome to your plots, which I think is the best thing in the game, really, the story-wise. So hopefully that was enough. I'll wait any comments. Don't be shy. And then please, if you haven't played that game, play it. If you know somebody who has it, at least try it with them. If it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. But at least you should try it once. All right. Thank you for following me in my cyberpunk journey.